Hello, my name is Timothy Kong. I'm a freelance illustrator based in the UK, and welcome to my channel. This is my first ever video, so if it's a bit terrible or anything like that, I apologize in advance. Try not to be too hard on me. No, if you guys have any constructive criticism and comments, please let me know. I want this channel to develop into something that I'm going to be proud of, and sometimes, the ideas I might present or the way I'm presenting it may not be to the best of my ability, and sometimes I need some external opinions for that. So, I want the opinion of the community to matter. So feel free to comment down below on anything that you feel like you want to add. Just a little quick summary about myself. Like I said earlier, I'm a freelance illustrator. I guess my art style is like it's mostly fantasy art, because that's the stuff that I'm kind of mostly into. Visually, it's like a blend between Western and Eastern aesthetics, I guess. These days it's a bit more sort of geared towards, I guess you could say, Japanese artists, but I'm trying to create like a marriage between the two to sort of represent both sides of what I like about the sort of two relatively different sort of artistic sort of cultural origins, I guess you could say. My older work was definitely more concept arty, more painterly, because that was sort of the direction I thought I had to go to. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but before I talk about that, let me just explain for those of you listening what this channel is and what this channel is not going to be. So just to get it out of the bag, what this channel isn't going to be is it's not going to be a dedicated tutorial channel. So for those of you who come to this channel thinking, I'm going to create lots of tutorials on color theory, lighting, anatomy, this is probably not the place for you. The reason I don't want to do tutorials is because there are loads of really good material out there by people who really put their time and effort and passion into teaching, and they can probably do it far better than I can. Secondly, I don't share that passion for teaching right now. So if I did it right now, I'll probably just half-ass it. It'll just come across as not very good. But if there's a lot of people asking for certain things, I'll definitely consider adding them on, because I want the opinion of you guys to matter. I want the community to the input of the community to sort of have weight to the direction that this channel could go. But yeah, so just to get that out there. As you can see, I'm kind of free-falling this. Another thing about this channel is I don't want to do too much sort of editing on top when I'm talking. So it's going to be kind of raw. The reason I want to keep it that way is because it kind of runs along with the topics that I do want to talk about. The topics that I kind of want to talk about is, general creativity, I guess you could say inspirations, the sort of mental challenges you can face as an artist, as a person as well, because they kind of run hand in hand, because art is so personal. And I feel because of that, talking in this more raw, unedited style kind of reflects how that process is, because it's not like technique where you get given guidelines on how to go 1, 2, 3 step into that direction. It's a bit more amorphous. It's very what's the word, sort of kind of like a vague sort of process that's different for everyone. I will find that word. Yeah, as you can see, I'm making all the mistakes here already, but it's all right. I'm willing to subject myself to this embarrassment. So yeah, so I guess I'll talk about the first topic here rather than just me blabbing on about myself on my introduction. I faced a lot of mental challenges growing up as an artist, like most people out there. I mean, it varies. Some people have some of these challenges more than others, and I think it's a huge decisive factor on how successful and how early on you'll be. I mean, I spent a good, I'll say like 70% of my artistic career basically going in the wrong direction. And the reason why I went the wrong direction is very simple. I had no self-confidence. Now, what do I mean by self-confidence? Some people think like, oh, self-confidence is how well I draw that line. I gotta draw that line in a nice bold fashion. Oh, self-confidence is basically, I know I have the confidence to put down this value against this value. I mean, that stuff matters. That stuff is pretty important. But when I'm talking about self-confidence, I mean like self-confidence in believing in yourself. Or more precisely, like having faith in your own decision-making, your own taste. I struggled for this for many, many, many years. For some artists, this comes across supernatural, as in naturally to them, which I am very jealous of, because this kind of thought process is very difficult for me. For a very long time, when I was doing my art sort of career, I've always pursued it in a direction of like, oh, this is what other people told me to do, so this is the direction I should go. And this helps a lot for technical things, learning anatomy, learning color. I learned a lot from, other people, resources. But when it came to creativity, I unfortunately took that on board too literally as well. Just to give you a bit of context, like, I really like anime and manga. I grew up with that stuff since I was a child, and it's been part of my life for basically all of it since I was like 5. And at the time when I was growing up, anime and manga was pretty small. It wasn't much influence at all, and so I had to keep it to myself because people saw it as kind of weird, or like they couldn't relate to what I was talking about. And so when I made the step to be an artist, I was looking for advice on how to be an artist in the games industry. And I was told back then that you gotta cut out anime, you can't do anime, you gotta do realism. And so I was like, okay, if I really want to be serious about this, I gotta cut out everything I like about anime. Like, it didn't help that I was surrounding myself with friends who kind of shared the opinion, more like they just had a different taste to me. That's not to say like they were bad people or like belittling me or anything. There's nothing like that at all. More precisely, they were naturally into the aesthetics of realism. That being said, learning to draw realistically, or fundamentals, lighting, color, and all that kind of stuff, it's all very important because that's like the basis of how you create artwork. But the problem was that I not only pursued it in that direction, I was convincing myself that this was the only way I was ever going to make a future as an artist. Like, I have to do super realism. Anyone who's not doing realism is garbage, is terrible, is they or you know what I mean? Like, these were literally the kind of thoughts that I had in my head. And so like I completely try to obliterate anime and manga from my system, the influences, the cultural influences in them, to try and fit into this mold of what I perceive people to want me to be. Keep in mind, this is not actually what people have told me. This is like all perception within my head of what I assumed people wanted me to be. So I kept doing this to myself for a good number of years, and I grew technically competent. My artwork was improving, but I didn't feel anything with the work. I couldn't relate to my own work, and I think other people felt the same as well, because I felt like my artwork never resonated with people. People go like, "Oh, that's kind of cool," but like there was no other I guess you could say, emotion with it. And it reflected in how I was making it, because when I was making the artwork, it was more of a technical exercise. It lacked a bit of heart and soul, because I was doing the subject matter because other people were doing it. Other people who were big in the industry, game sort of concept art industry. And I kept doing this to myself, to the point where artwork just became a chore. Like, just lifting up that stylus to draw the next thing, I was just like, oh, this is just getting much. And it got to a point where I had a huge art block, like a really big one. I think it lasted for a year. That's how bad it got. And I was unhappy. I was really, really unhappy. I felt like an absolute failure. I thought the reason why I couldn't do this anymore is because I'm just terrible at this, and nobody wants me because I'm just, I'm talentless. I have no talent. I'm unskilled, and it got me into a pretty low place. Like, I didn't do artwork for a whole year, and whilst during that time I wasn't doing anything. I was just working and playing video games. So yeah, that sucked. But what happened was I knew that I need to get help. I need to get professional help. So I had a therapist help me out. I truly believe that, like, therapy is super important when you really need it. Like, it's not a weakness to admit that you need some help, because you know what? Me taking therapy at the time was the best choice I've ever made, because not only did it help revitalize my love for artwork, he also helped me sort of open my eyes to everything that I've sealed away within myself all those years ago, like all that like aspect and joy that I loved as a child whenever I played video games and watched anime. Like, I completely bottled that inside, and he sort of reopened it, punctured a few holes, I guess you could say, in the seal, to sort of let it back out again, slowly but surely, because that's the most important thing. Like, I had to realize that, like, pursuing my own, what I like, what I legitimately get excited for, is the only way you can do this career without essentially making yourself miserable. Because artwork is not like a normal job. You have to put a bit of yourself in there, and if you don't enjoy the things that you make for yourself, there is no way you can enjoy doing it as a job. And I definitely know that firsthand, because I worked in a couple of games companies with that exact mentality, thinking that I have to fit in. I can't put any of my personal taste in here because nobody cares for it. And it was horrible. I just didn't have a good time at all. I was not enjoying it. I enjoyed the company of my work colleagues. They're absolutely lovely people, but the work, no, I couldn't. Because I was struggling to put down my ideas already, and so yeah, it makes a huge difference. And so thus begun my transition from my old artwork to the one that you see now. I might put some pictures here just to show you what my work looked like before. As you can see, it's like it's more technical, it's more realistic. Some people might argue it's better than my current one, but honestly, I don't really care, because I'm much enjoying the direction that I am going right now. I've had more job offers. I've definitely had more interest in general now that I'm putting more of my own personal taste into the work compared to before. Before, people say like, oh, it's cool, it looks kind of cool. Now, for some of the pieces I put down, people sort of want to know a bit more. They're like, oh, who's this character? I want to know more. There's like more, like people can sort of sense more of an energy to it. And that's why, just to sum up that massive waffling I did, self-confidence is super important. Self-confidence in yourself. And so the question is, how can you build self-confidence when you're in a place where you have no self-confidence? This one's a bit tricky. I think one of the things you have to do, first of all, is surround yourself with people who support the direction that you're going, or people have similar taste. I for a very long time surrounded with people who either didn't support what I do or didn't really have similar kind of I guess you could say taste as I do. And so it kind of became like a friction, right? Like a friction where I feel like I have to prove myself, but rather than like feeling comfortable where I am. So if you surround yourself more with people who you feel like a good bond with from sort of a taste point of view, that will really help motivate you to push your work in the direction that is more personal to you. So that would be one of the first things I would do. Secondly, try to meet people. I was sort of a bit of a shut-in for a while, and until recently I started meeting with more people. I started going out, meeting more artists, getting more perspective on things, talking to a lot of people, and it really opened my eyes to outside the little bubble that I had that was just my head, like what other people's tastes are, what their sort of ambitions are, and it really opened my eyes to I repeat that 3 times now to sort of new perspective. And I think that sort of energy really helps motivate you as well. Just a last thing I can think of, when you create artwork, just try not when you create the artwork, don't create it with the idea that you gotta please people. Here's the main thing that I learned. Like, whenever I create artwork that I feel like, it's gotta get a lot of likes on ArtStation or DeviantArt, it usually comes off pretty mediocre. Whereas like if I create an artwork based off like something that I just thought felt super cool, or some emotion that I feel really strongly about, and put that as priority first, the artwork comes out so much better. It makes a huge difference. And if you put that as your first, and those pieces usually, or should I say, from my experience, most definitely has better sort of impact on people than the ones that I try to gear towards what I think people want, because those ones never work. Those ones have always fallen flat on their faces. Like I've done that enough times to know. But yeah, I've been talking for about 18 minutes now. So I guess I'll start closing this off, I guess you could say. Yeah, so I guess I'll talk a little bit more about what I'm doing here. This character is actually a personal character of mine. She's I haven't got a name for her yet. She's a fire witch. She's part of one of 4 immortal siblings, witch siblings. They all got different personalities. She's more kind of sassy, I guess you could say. She really enjoys mingling with other humans. But if you double cross her, or if you mess around in her domain, she will turn you to barbecue. She'll burn you to a crisp. And I actually created this character before, I think a year or 2 ago. As you can see here, I'll put it on screen. But I wanted to create a portrait of her that sort of better showed her personality. Because I felt like the original one was okay as a concept, but didn't really show her personality very well. But yeah, so for future videos, I'll be doing full-on recordings, and I'll be less waffly. I'll start with the topic straight away. This is sort of more of an intro to what the videos are going to be like. I apologize if it's a bit messy and all over the place. I kind of didn't have much notes for this, but Like I say, I want to keep it kind of raw. I will probably put a couple more notes next time so I can sort of structure it a bit better. But the general format of this is going to be kind of the same. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. I'll sign off now, and I'll just leave this recording playing with a bit of music. Hopefully, future me, put some music in, please. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much. Bye.